All right, today we got kind of a fun project. You're going to be creating kind of a billboard looking advertisement from this cutout of a pretty plain looking car. It's going to look pretty nice when you get done. Um, Shout out goes to Scott Kelby at Photoshop User TV, who a long time ago did a project just like this that I've been stealing and using ever since. To get the file for today, you're going to want to go to bit.ly/layers-yellowcar. That's all lowercase. bit.ly/layers-yellowcar. Once you get that open, we'll begin. So the first thing we need to do to make this look like this car is actually in a space instead of just floating is to give it a shadow. And as we do that, we're going to learn a couple new shortcuts. Click on your car layer. Right now it's called layer 2. I should have fixed that at some point. Let's fix it right now. Highlight, double click right on the words layer 2. Let's rename that car. Now we're going to duplicate this entire layer. As you can see here, the car has already been cut out for you. And to duplicate it, you don't have to select anything. You don't have to give any particular tool. You just have to be clicked on the layer, and the shortcut is Control J. Control J, which doesn't really stand for anything. I like to say Control J stands for just duplicate it. And then let's call the duplicate shadow. Now, right now, these two layers look exactly alike, but we're about to change this layer dramatically. Hit the letter D, not Control D or Alt D or anything like that. Just type the letter D, and you'll see your two colors down here, your foreground and background colors. When you type D, we'll switch whatever colors you got. They will switch to black as your foreground color and white as your background color. Those are called your default colors. This button will do it as well, but you can see there the shortcut for default colors is D. So it's a quick way to get black and white as your foreground and background colors. And then the shortcut to fill a layer with color is Alt Backspace. Don't do that yet. If we did Alt Backspace, this is what would happen. It would fill the entire layer with our foreground color. That's not what we want. So I'm going to undo that. Okay, that's Alt Backspace. If you only want to fill the pixels, and again, I showed you that this cutout, this car, is cut out and everything else in here is transparent. If you just want to fill the pixels in a layer with your foreground color, you add Shift to that shortcut. So go ahead now and do Shift Alt Backspace, and it'll fill your color with black. It'll fill your car with black. Shift Alt Backspace to fill your car with black. This is going to be our shadow. So you can do Control T for free transform, and grab this top layer, this top handle. Grab this top handle and pull it straight down. Just so you can, kind of barely see under the car there. You can lock that in. And then let's take that shadow layer and drag it down under the car layer. Now you can see it doesn't quite look right because the car is at an angle. So when we made the shadow and squinched it down here, this back tire doesn't touch the shadow. So it looks like the car is kind of popping a rear wheelie. So that's all right. Let's, on the shadow layer here, we're going to do Control T again. And we're going to use something that we haven't used before in free transform. When you are free transforming, if you go up here, there's a little button that says switch between free transform, which is what we're in right now, and warp. Go ahead and click that. We're going to go into warp mode. So in free transform, you can kind of go up and down, you can kind of go left and right. And that's about all you get. When you click on warp, you've got more handles. And when you move one of those handles, it doesn't stretch the whole thing out. It focuses just on this area of the pixels. So grab your top left handle and kind of pull it up a little bit. And then grab a little black handle there and the white handle. And you can also click right on the picture and move it around like that. You need to come down here and pull this tire back down a little bit. You can. Grab that little dot right there. And if you need to grab these handles, pull them in a little bit, you can. Once you got a shadow, it looks like it's kind of touching all of the wheels the way a shadow would. Go ahead and lock that in. All right, and then save it. Make sure you save often. We're going to save this as Yellowcar, your name. Save it as Yellowcar, your name. Save it under your student number. Save it under your drive, your H drive that has your student number on it. Yellowcar. All right, now the shadow's looking pretty good. It's a little too dark. A better looking shadow would not be as hard all the way around. Shadows usually get a little fuzzy at the edges. So let's do that. Let's go to Filter and pull down to Blur, and then come over and down to Gaussian Blur. Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. And then you'll see the preview there. Pick a radius that looks like a nice shadow. If you go too high, like this one, it becomes way too blown out. And again, the car looks like it's floating. If you go too low, it doesn't really change that much. Go somewhere between 8 and 10, I'd say. And once you get what looks like a kind of a nice shadow, click OK. If you want to fuzz it out or fade it out a little bit more, you could change your opacity here. You could bring your opacity down. Don't bring it down too much. Again, you know, too little of a shadow, you're going to lose the effect. But you could bring it down a little bit if you wanted to. I think that'd be nice, maybe 85% or so. When you do that, if it starts to pull away from your tires, do that Control T and warp one more time. And just kind of get that back where you want it to be. Okay, if you need to. Get the shadow back where you need it to be. If you can't see under the car, pull it down a little bit. I think it's nice if you can see under the car. I think it gives it a little bit of authenticity. I guess maybe where's that back tire? Hard to tell, hard to tell where that back tire is at, where that shadow should go. All right, click that check mark there. Looking good. Save it. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to change the color of the car. Let's make it something cooler than that kind of drab yellow. Click on the car layer for this next step. And we're going to select the car. Here's another shortcut. A lot of cool shortcuts today. So you do not have to go and grab a selection tool to select this car. Again, it's already been cut out once. You don't have to do it again. If you come over right on your thumbnail, this little picture of the car in your layers panel, it's called your thumbnail. You hold down the control key on your keyboard, and you see this little pointy finger gets a little marquee picture right over top of it there. So right on the thumbnail, hold down control and click one time. Boom, all the pixels in the layer become selected. So now that you've got your car selected, come down here to the adjustment layer menu. We've talked about adjustment layers before. There's some pretty cool ones in here. The one that we're going to choose is hue saturation. And because our car is selected, as soon as we click on hue saturation and the hue saturation adjustment layer pops up, you can see there's that layer mask that was made from your selection. You need to have that mask for what we're going to do here in a couple steps. And then go ahead and pick a color. Change your hue slider, find a color you think looks nice. Some of the colors, like the green and the purple, it's too bright. Yeah, that happens a lot when you do a hue saturation adjustment. Is the colors are a bit fakey, a little bit too bright. So if you get a color and it's a little too neon looking, take your saturation and just scooch it down a little bit to the left. And it'll fade it out and make it look a little more natural. All right, if you got that, save it. Now I want you to zoom in on this license plate here. To zoom, I'm holding down the Alt key and I'm using my scroll wheel. I'm scroll wheeling up and it's zooming right in here. So if I turn my adjustment layer off, you'll see that the original color of this flag on this license plate was red, white, and blue. When I changed the color of the car, it also changed the color of the license plate. So we need to get that back. Okay, we just changed this country. So click on this layer mask here. And then we've used layer masks in here before. Go to your paintbrush tool and you paint with black or white. This little flip-flop arrow will switch you between black and white, or the shortcut for the flip-flop arrow is the letter X. That'll flip your colors black and white. You want to be on black. Pick a brush size that makes sense, probably somewhere around between 5 and 10, and then just paint with black. Just bring that original color right back to that license plate. If you start painting and it's not working, there's a couple things you can check. First of all, make sure you're on black, not white. And then go back up here, make sure your mode is on normal and your opacity is 100%. All of those things are things that sometimes get changed so that your brush doesn't work for you. The other thing is to make sure that you clicked on the mask here. If you're not clicked on the mask, you get this little, nope, can't do it symbol. So you're gonna be on the mask there. All right, if you got that changed, there's a couple of other things that you can change if you'd like. Make your brush a little bit bigger. You could bring the original color of these, too far. Bring the original color of these blinker lights back. They probably changed color on you. So paint black over those. And if you go too far like me, switch to white, X. You can paint that back in. All right, so there's a few things you could do. There in your layer mask. Looking good. Save that. All right. Hey, we're almost done. Now, what's really going to make this look like a car ad is this next few steps. Go to the background layer. And we are going to fill this with a color. And we're going to use this tool here called the eyedropper tool. The shortcut for the eyedropper is the letter I. It's the 6th tool down from the top. If you see some other tool, click and hold on it. You'll find the eyedropper tool. And the way the eyedropper tool works is wherever you click on your page, it sucks up that color and hangs onto it. And it loads it right over here into your foreground color. Okay, if you click and hold, you can drag around and you can see that top ring change. The bottom ring is your current color. The top ring is your new color that you're choosing. And come up here on this fender and choose a really light color. Okay, so you got a really light peachy color there. I'm going to select that. You can see my foreground color has changed. Make sure you're in the background layer and you're going to do that shortcut I showed you at the beginning and told you not to do, which is Alt Backspace. Alt Backspace is fill with foreground colors. So Alt Backspace will fill your background with this light color, whatever color you chose. Okay, if you had a blue car, it should be a nice light blue. Then duplicate your background. That shortcut again is Control J for just duplicate it. Control J. Now we got background copy. Take your eyedropper tool and come over here on the door and click. Select a dark color in your car and do that same shortcut, Alt Backspace. Alt Backspace will fill this layer in with the darker color. So if you did it right, this is your setup and your layers. Hue saturation for your car. Then under that, you got the car layer. Then under that, you got the shadow. Then you got your background copy with a dark color. And you got your background with a light color. And you want to have the background copy layer selected for this last step or two. Background copy. Select the car again. Remember how to do that? Hold down Control and click on the thumbnail of the car. Your car is selected again. And you're still in the background copy layer. Now we're going to alter this selection. Go to the Select menu and pull down to Modify and do Expand. Select, Modify, Expand. And I want you to pop your selection out by 100 pixels. And click OK. So you got your car shape selection, but it is much bigger now than the car. Now go up to Select, Modify a second time. Select Modify. This time choose Feather. You can do 100 pixels again. And click OK. And that smooths those edges out. What Feather does is it takes the edge and it fades it out like a gradient, fades it out both directions, fades it out this outside the selection and inside the selection. Okay, so we got this nice little gradient that's going to happen when we do the next step, which is just on your keyboard, hit either backspace or delete. It's going to cut a hole in your background copy layer, the dark layer, and it's going to let the light layer show through, and you get this really nice lighting effect. If you want to do a little bit more, you can hit backspace a second time. You get a little bit more. I'm going to actually hit undo and back off on that a little bit and just do it one time. Go ahead and deselect. You know that shortcut, Control D to deselect. And then make it look a little bit more like a legit ad. Go get your type tool and make white your foreground color and type, you know, whatever, the all new Beetle. And I know what you're thinking. They don't make the Beetle anymore, Mr. Sanders. Hey, you know what? Once you got an assignment that works, you just run it into the ground. So I'm going to be using this car until I die, probably. The all new Beetle. If you go to type and your type isn't white for some reason, go up here to this chip. Every once in a while, you change your foreground color, and this little color chip up at the top, which is your text color, doesn't change. So you might have to click that to pick your color, but almost always white is going to look the nicest. And if you got that, you're looking really nice. And you should save it one more time, and you can hand it in, and you are done with Yellowcar. Nice work.